إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Inshallah, we continue with our journey in the 40 Nawawi Hadith. And in the last lecture we talked about the first hadith, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. And we said that this hadith is so great that many scholars deem it to be half of Islam, with the other hadith of Aisha radiyallahu anha, من عمل عملا ليس عليه أمرنا فهو رد. Today inshallah we're going to go to the next hadith, hadith number 2 in the 40 hadith, and we said that they are not 40, they are 42. And it is famous and usually called Hadith Jibreel, the Hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam. It is a lengthy hadith, so inshallah we're going to talk about the first part, which is the introduction of it, and then the pillars of Islam. And then inshallah in the next session we will talk about what's left of it. So this hadith is also reported by Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, like the first one. So, but here is direct, not like the first one. The first one, an Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn Khattab. This is just an Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, قال, on the authority of Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, بينما نحن جلوس عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, while we were sitting with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, one day, ذات يوم, one day, اطلع علينا رجل شديد بياض الثياب شديد سواد الشعر لا يرى عليه أثر السفر ولا يعرفه منا أحد. So one day a man came to us, a man appeared, whose clothes were so white and his hair was so black, so dark, and no sign of traveling was seen or noticed of him, and no one of us knows him. حتى جلس إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فأسند ركبتيه إلى ركبتيه ووضع كفيه على فخذيه, until he reached to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, and he sat and put his knees to the knees of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, and put his hands on his thighs, which means the thigh of this man who came. And then he said, ثم قال يا محمد أخبرني عن الإسلام. O Muhammad, tell me about Islam. فقال, so he said, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الإسلام أن تشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله وتقيم الصلاة وتؤتي الزكاة وتصوم رمضان وتحج البيت إن استطعت إليه سبيلا. Islam is to bear witness, testimony, that there is no God rightly worshipped except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his messenger. And you establish salah, and you establish salah prayer, and you give zakah, you pay the alms. وتصوم رمضان, and you fast Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. وتحج البيت إن استطعت إليه سبيلا, and you do pilgrimage, you go for Hajj if you can. So this is just the translation. Now we will go to it one by one. First, so these 5 things are the pillars of Islam, the 5 pillars of Islam. Now the first pillar is أن تشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله, is to bear witness that there is no God rightly worshipped except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now if you look at this sentence, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله, these in fact are two testimonies, not one. But still these both are one pillar of Islam. They are dealt with as one pillar. They are not to be disconnected. Now, when we say tashhadu, you bear witness, we don't mean that you simply say or utter the shahada. When we say tashhad, we need two conditions. You need to bear testimony in your heart, and then you announce that with your tongue. So one of these is not enough. You have to bear witness with your tongue, with the belief in your heart that this is the truth. Unless, of course, if, for example, someone is dumb, he's not able to say anything. In this case, he just needs to say it in his heart. But generally, you have to believe in it in your heart and announce it in your tongue. Now, is it okay to recite shahada in other than Arabic? If you don't know Arabic, is it enough for you to recite shahada in your own language? Yes, you can, because it is what it means. If you know its meaning, of course, it's better to say it in Arabic. But if you can't say it in Arabic, or you don't know the meaning of these words in Arabic, then you can simply say it in your own language, in whichever language, doesn't matter. But you have to announce it, and you have to believe in this. With La ilaha illallah, you become a Muslim. You enter Islam. You enter Islam by saying La ilaha illallah and believing in it. You enter Islam. And we as Muslims, we must deal with you as a Muslim. And the proof about that is when Usama bin Zayd, radiyallahu anhu, we know in one instance, they were in a battle with the mushrikeen, with the kuffar, and then once he could get someone, and when he was about to kill him, that man said La ilaha illallah. And still Usama bin Zayd killed him. So later when that was delivered to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he told him, قتلته وقد شهد لا إله إلا الله أو قد قال لا إله إلا الله. You killed him, although he said La ilaha illallah. So Usama said that, he only said that so that he would protect himself from the killing. So the Prophet ﷺ kept blaming him, until Usama himself used to say that I wish I was not a Muslim by that time. Like I would have become a Muslim later, because he felt so ashamed. So this is a piece of proof that La ilaha illallah is enough for you to enter Islam. But then, of course, you need to believe in the second part of this shahada. Now, before we move to Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, now, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, we said that there is no God worthy of being rightly worshipped. Because the word rightly is very important here. Because otherwise, if we just say that there is no God worshipped except Allah, this would be a big lie. Because we know that we have many gods, and even in the Quran it's mentioned, like alayhi. We have many gods, but none of these gods is rightly worshipped except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only God that is rightly worshipped. Otherwise we have Jesus Christ himself is worshipped, but of course he does not deserve to be worshipped. The same thing for Mary. The same thing even with the Prophet ﷺ himself. When you go to his grave and you say, "Oh Muhammad, I have this ordeal, I have this problem, please solve it for me. I have these sins, please forgive me from these sins." In this case you are worshipping him. And this is shirk. This is shirk. Although he is the Prophet ﷺ, but he is a prophet and a messenger, but he is not a God. And we will come to this inshallah. So that's why the word rightly is very important, because we have many other gods, but none of these gods is really rightly worthy of being worshipped except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we go to the second part of Shahada. وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First, the word messenger comes from the word message originally, and of course has different meaning than prophets. Of course, some scholars say it's the same meaning, prophets and messengers, but indeed it is different if we consider different text. We have in the Hadith where when the people on the Day of Judgment become on the great ordeal, so they go to Adam and then they tell him that you are the first human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you with his own hand, and then he moves him to Nuh alayhi salam. Noah. And then Noah alayhi salam, he says, then they tell him that you are the first messenger. You are the first messenger. So Noah, of course, Noah is the first messenger. So whoever came before him is not a messenger. Although many books of history, even Islamic scholars, mention that there are messengers before Noah. Like, for example, they say Idris is a messenger and he is before Noah. And if we consider these textual evidences, we find that in fact the first messenger is Noah alayhi salam. And the messenger, but we have different opinions which really differentiates between a messenger and a prophet. Mainly is that the messenger has a revelation. He receives revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he is asked to deliver that to the people and implement it. Whilst, for example, all the prophets, they receive revelation, but they don't really have to deliver that because they don't have a sharia. They didn't need sharia. لأن كان الناس أمة واحدة. All people were one nation until the time of Noah came, when people became so different, and then we know what happened. People started to be deviated from the right path. That's where people needed sharia. They needed legislation. So the word messenger is different from the word prophet. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad, he is the last messenger and prophet. He is the last messenger and of course the last